I think we need to turn the power on.
Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Back today with a helpful guide to configuring graphics settings for Call of Duty World at War. I will also be showing you how to unlock frame rates and to set up controller support for the game since it doesn't automatically enable it for you for some reason. World at War was by far my favorite Call of Duty title. I enjoyed the campaign of World War II, but I still don't think it was as good as World at War. The multiplayer was fantastic, at least back in its prime, and introduced zombies for the first time, which became wildly popular throughout the franchise. I'm gonna try to keep this guide on the shorter side, so let's dive into it. For some stupid reason, whenever you change the resolution or graphics settings, the goddamn game crashes and locks the computer, forcing you to hard reset, which is very annoying. This probably happens to everyone who is rocking Windows 10, and is probably the reason why you are watching this. So I decided to make this video to show you how to configure all the settings that cause the crash in the configuration file. There are tons of other videos and Steam guides with this fix, but they only go over resolution and not every graphics setting. So hopefully this will be quite helpful. Get your game installed and launch it so all the files generate. Be sure to set a profile name and such. You'll need to do the same thing again for multiplayer since it has a separate configuration file, but as you will see, it is super easy. Once we run the game and make our profile, we can exit out of the game. We will need to navigate over to our app data folder. Be sure to go to the File Explorer options and enable this box here so we can see hidden folders in the directory. With that done, let's find the config file. You can find the app data folder by searching %appdata% and then clicking app data up here. We are looking for this local folder. You can also find it by going to your C drive, users, username, mine's the beast, then app data, then we have that same local folder from earlier. Click into local, then Activision, COD World at War, players, profiles, then your profile name. Here we will find our configuration file. If you open the config file with Notepad, it jumbles all the information together like so. You can still search and edit with the Notepad, but let's go ahead and open it with WordPad instead. Now it is much more neat and organized. Here we can manually configure everything to get around the cursed crashing issue. Here is where I will break down where all the graphics settings are located. So resolution, refresh rate, aspect ratio, anti-aliasing, and sync every frame are the only settings that require you to click apply. And when you click apply, that's when the crash happens. So we will go over those ones since they are the troublesome ones. The rest of the settings you can successfully change without clicking apply and causing the crash. First one is resolution. If you don't want to scroll and search for it, Control F will open up a handy search bar. The resolution setting is this, SETA_R_mode. Search for that and set it to your desired resolution. I'm doing 1440p, so I have it set to 2560 by 1440. I also saw in a bunch of the other guides to make sure that SETA_R full screen looks like this with the 1 in there. And if that's all you need to change, just go ahead and exit, save, and happy playing, friends. But I want to show you all the graphic settings that you need to click apply for, which most how-tos were lacking. Next is screen refresh rate. That is going to be SETA_R_display refresh in the config file. I set mine to 144, but that won't matter much since the frame rate caps at 85. Look for this one, SETA_COM_max FPS 85. Change 85 to 0, and now you have unlocked your frame rate. Now we are talking. To see that your frame rate has actually changed, you can change this one right here, SETA_CG_draw FPS. Change the off to 1 and enable your FPS counter so you can see what your frame rate is. You can see here that with the unlocked frame rate, I have it running at around 300 FPS. And then you can see here with the Vsync enabled, it locks it to the 144 FPS that I'm looking for. And then if you're done checking what your FPS is, you can go back into the config file and change the draw FPS back to off to turn it off. Next up is the aspect ratio, SETA_R_aspect ratio. Just leave this one here on auto and you should be good. It should do your 16:9 without any issue. The standard aspect ratios will work just fine on the auto, but if you need a widescreen setup, you might have to download a mod or tinker with some other things to get that to work. But I did look into it a little bit, and it looks like there is a mod that helps you get it up to 21:9. You just might have to change the field of view or a few things like that. For 16:9, it'll work just perfectly in the auto mode. The widescreen you're going to have to dink around with a little bit more. You may just have to settle for the auto setting if that's the only way you can play. Then we have anti-aliasing. It is right above aspect ratio, SETA_R_AA samples. This is already set to 4. 4 is the highest that it'll go, so leave it there if you're looking to max it out. Your other options may be 2 or off, but we're just going to go ahead and leave it at 4 because we want it as high as possible. Then lastly, we have sync every frame, otherwise known as Vsync. That will look like this, seta r_vsync. It should be set to 0 if you have it off. Go ahead and change this to 1, and now you have Vsync enabled. And there we go, my friends. Exit, click save, and boot the game to see if it worked. You can launch the game and go into the graphics options to see that all your changes have worked successfully. Enjoy your smooth and crisp gaming. It really bugs me that it doesn't pull up the FPS counter in the corner like most Steam games. You can enable or disable draw FPS in the configuration file like we mentioned. You could of course use the G-Sync overlay or fraps to do this if you have those as well. Now let's talk about getting your controller to work for the game. Some users use the console commands to do this, but I have read that you need to do that every time you launch the game. So we are just going to enable this in the launch options so the game launches with this enabled every time. So go to World at War in Steam, and then go to Manage, then Properties, and then Launch Options. Type in this, exec space default_controller.cfg. Then hit OK, and it's really that easy. It works for the majority of controllers. I use an Xbox One controller, and mine worked right out of the gate without needing Steam controller support, but you may have to enable it or play with those settings if you can't get your controller to work right from the get-go. I personally play inverted and on high sensitivity, so I will show you how to change those as well. We will change those options back in the configuration file. Open up that bad boy and search invert to find this line, SATA input_invert pitch. Change the 0 to 1 and now your y-axis is inverted. Right under it is our stick sensitivity, SATA input_view sensitivity. So check out this document here. You will see that the different sensitivities have this odd numbering. Insanely high is the equivalent of 10, and low is the equivalent of 1. I usually do 7 out of 10, so we will go ahead with this 2.6 option. Change the number to the one that is good for you, and then you're good to go. Hit save and exit. And that's it. Now your controller will work inverted and with the higher sensitivity. I will be sure to link my source for this information. It is a guide to doing this through the command console, so feel free to do it that way if that's the way you would prefer. Launch the game, give it a test, and you're good to go. The controller won't work in the menus, but it will work perfectly for gameplay. You can see right here that I have it set up and working just like it was when I played it on Xbox. And that's it, my friends. It's pretty simple to do once you know exactly what you are looking for in that configuration file. Be sure to launch the multiplayer portion, so it'll generate the config MP file, which is the multiplayer configuration file, and then go back in there and do everything that you just did for the single player one. I got this game on sale for the nostalgia trip with the multiplayer and the zombies, and I have thoroughly been enjoying it. Hope this was helpful for some of you. Feel free to comment or hit the Discord with any questions or issues, and I'll gladly do what I can to help you out. Get subscribed if you're not already so you can see future content as it comes out. Throw a like up on the video if this one helped you out. I love making helpful videos like these ones here. As always, I appreciate you all watching and checking out the video. Thank you all again, my friends, and we will see you in the next one.
Power levels grew.